Hi friends, welcome. The opening scene features a funeral director, Elliot Deacon, who owns a funeral home. As part of his daily routine, he prepares bodies for their funeral while talking to them calmly. Currently, he is seen preparing the body of an elderly piano teacher. We then move on to middle school teacher, Anna Taylor, who is making love with her boyfriend, Paul. Despite the romantic atmosphere, she doesn't seem to be enjoying it at all. Later, while taking a shower, Paul asks what's wrong, but she insists that she's fine, despite her facial expression saying otherwise. Anna then heads to work where she finds two older kids bullying her young student, Jack. She promptly scolds them and shuts them down. After work, Anna leaves school when the lights in the hallway start flashing. Terrified, she frantically runs for the exit but finds the door locked. In the midst of this intense moment, Jack appears and opens the door without any problem. That evening, Anna attends the funeral of her former piano teacher at Elliot's house. As she approaches the body, she sees her mouth moving. This takes her by surprise for a moment, but upon second glance, she sees it as normal and realizes it must be her imagination. Later that night, Anna goes to meet Paul at a fancy restaurant for dinner. During this, he tells her that he has been promoted to the corporate headquarters, so he has to move to Chicago. He then pulls a ring out of his pocket, intending to propose to her and take her with him. But before he can do so, Anna starts arguing because she thinks he is going to break up with her. Paul tries to explain the truth, but she leaves without listening. She drives off in distress and in the pouring rain, ends up in a car accident. In the next scene, Anna is seen on the embalming table at the funeral home, her face pale and a wound on her forehead. Shortly after, Elliot enters and begins to prepare her. As he proceeds to undress her, Anna opens her eyes and asks where she is. Elliot answers with surprising calmness that she is at the funeral home and that she is dead. He also reminds her that she was hit by a truck loaded with metal pipes, causing her death 8 hours earlier. Confused and horrified, Anna still cannot believe that she is dead despite the funeral director's reassurances that she is merely passing on to the afterlife. Meanwhile, Paul wakes up at his home and attempts to call his girlfriend several times. However, Anna's belongings are now with Elliot, who ignores the call and places them in a storage locker alongside the other corpse's belongings. Unable to find them anywhere, Paul goes to her mother's house to inquire about her whereabouts. To his great shock, his mother reveals the tragic accident that led to her death. Additionally, she blames him for letting her drive in such bad weather. At the funeral home, Elliot stitches Anna's wounds and she is puzzled that she is not feeling pain. She asks what this is, but he ignores her and injects her with a fictional drug called hydronium bromide, which he claims will relax her muscles. After a while, Anna's wheelchair-bound mother arrives at the funeral home to see her. In a tearful voice, she speaks to Anna's body, asking who will take care of her now. Before leaving, Anna asks Elliot to turn her hair back to its natural color, brown. Later, Anna wakes up to find herself alone in a room. She musters enough strength to sit upright. She then walks to the landline, but it does not work. At that moment, Paul appears at the funeral home and asks Elliot to let him see his girlfriend. Despite his desperation, the funeral director refuses to let him in because he has no legal ties to her. Upon hearing Paul's voice, Anna screams and knocks on the door, but her efforts go unnoticed. Paul then goes to the police station to meet his friend Tom, hoping that he can do something to get him into the funeral home. However, another police officer informs him that Tom has gone on patrol and will be back soon. Until then, Paul enters the police custody and sits inside Anna's wrecked car. Meanwhile, he sees his girlfriend in a vision, which is suddenly interrupted by Tom's hand. Paul begs him to do something to facilitate his entry to see Anna, but the latter is helpless in this regard. Anna, on the other hand, wanders into the room and finds another dead body lying on the table. Not wanting to end up in such a fate, she grabs a pair of scissors and waits for Elliot. Once inside, she threatens to kill him, but the latter seems unfazed. He claims that she is unable to hurt him because she is already dead. Anna argues, wondering how she can talk to him if she is dead. At this point in time, Elliot reveals that she is able to talk to him because he has a gift, the ability to communicate with the dead. He also suggests that she give up on life because her funeral is in 3 days, after which she will be placed in a coffin and buried forever. In the next scene, Elliot is preparing the body of an old woman for the funeral when he is joined by Jack, who seems to know about Anna's death. The boy asks about her teacher, to which Elliot replies that her funeral is on Friday and asks him to leave now. The next morning, Paul hears Anna's whispering voice and also experiences visions of her taking a shower. However, he soon wakes up, realizing that it was all just a dream. Meanwhile, Elliot returns to Anna in a dress, which she will wear to her funeral. While he is distracted, she secretly steals a set of keys from his pocket. Later, as Elliot sets off to pick up another body from the hospital, Anna hastily uses the stolen keys and tries to open the door. Elliot stops at a gas station to refill his tank, where he realizes that he has forgotten his keys. So he rushes back to the funeral home. Meanwhile, Anna manages to unlock the door and wanders around the house. She soon comes across a room with a telephone. She quickly dials Paul's number and begins praying for him to answer. After a long ring, he answers the call, but quickly hangs up, believing it to be another hallucination. At that moment, Elliot finds her and allows her to see her corpse-like body in the mirror. This finally made her believe that she was really dead. At the same time, Jack, who was standing right in front of the house, noticed Anna, leaving him in a state of shock. In addition, another suspicious event occurred. Anna sighed in front of the mirror, causing her breath to fog up, but Elliot cleverly wipes it before she sees her. Now that she is convinced that she is dead, Anna stops resisting Elliot preparing her body and does not give a damn about what he offers her. The next day, Paul goes to Anna's school to collect her belongings. As he is about to leave, he is greeted by Jack, who tells him that he saw Anna at the funeral home wearing a red dress yesterday. Paul does not believe him and insists that she is dead. But when the boy claims that he does not love her enough, Paul becomes so angry that he slaps his face in front of everyone. At the funeral home, a police officer arrives to see his brother's body, which is being kept in the same room as Anna. He then asks Elliot to leave him alone with his brother for a few minutes. When the funeral director leaves, the officer's true intentions become clear when he approaches Anna's naked body. But as he is about to touch her, Elliot enters and asks him to leave. Jack then returns to the funeral home and tells Elliot what he saw the other day. In response, Elliot calmly replies that they share the same ability to communicate with deceased individuals. In fact, everyone has this ability. This ability is called the power of manipulation. On his way home, Paul suddenly remembers the red dress Anna wore the morning before she died. This arouses his suspicions that his girlfriend might still be alive. He rushes to the funeral home, demanding to see her, but Elliot refuses. This time, Paul ignores him and storms in, calling for Anna. He continues to search for her until the funeral director threatens to call the police. Paul then goes to the police station and tells Tom that his girlfriend is still alive. He also speculates that Anna was drugged with a high dose of drugs, which slowed her heart rate to its lowest point. But his friend does not believe him because he has no evidence to support his claim. Later, Elliot dresses Anna in her funeral clothes while the two have a deep conversation. She confesses that she was never happy with her life and was unable to love Paul wholeheartedly. However, she now regrets everything. The scene then shifts to the day of the funeral where Elliot is placing Anna in the coffin. As he prepares to inject her with another dose of drugs, she asks to see herself just one last time. He then holds up a small mirror and as she stares at herself, she notices her breath condensing on the glass. This makes her realize that Elliot has been lying to her the whole time and that she is not dead yet. Panicking, she tries to fight back but Elliot gives her the drugs, rendering her unconscious. Later, everyone gathers in the funeral parlor to pay their final respects to Anna. Soon after, Paul also appears and places the engagement ring on her finger. During this time, her lips and eyelids move slightly, and Elliot nervously decides to close the coffin. After being buried in the cemetery, a devastated Paul begins drinking heavily. He is then approached by the funeral director who Paul blames for burying Anna alive. In response, Elliot claims that he may be right and asks him to go check for himself. Enraged, Paul reacts aggressively, but before he can attack, Elliot tells him that he does not have much time left. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Paul drives towards the cemetery at top speed. Meanwhile, Anna wakes up inside the coffin and frantically screams for help as her oxygen slowly runs out. Despite being under the influence of alcohol, Paul dodges several vehicles on the highway. He then arrives at the cemetery and quickly digs up Anna's coffin and pulls her out. He somehow manages to revive her, and she confesses her love for him at the same time. Paul hears some strange noises and Anna explains that it's the sound of Elliot's scissors cutting his clothes. The next second, Paul finds himself at the funeral home with Elliot standing over him, preparing his body as he did with Anna's. Elliot reveals that he never made it to the cemetery because of a car accident that killed him. Paul protests that he's alive until Elliot inserts an embalming tool deep into his torso. Thank you for watching.